So today we're going to be talking about Timex. We're going to actually be looking at this new world timer from Timex. This is a pretty awesome watch, especially considering the price. However, because we're going to be talking about Timex, I do want to talk a little bit about why I featured Timex so much here on my channel. Now, there's a few different reasons for it. However, I have always loved Timex because of my connection through my father. My father wore a Timex almost exclusively when I was growing up. My father was a bartender. He didn't have a lot of money. However, he wanted a reliable watch, a watch that he could wear on a daily basis, get wet. He wanted something that was good looking. He wanted a watch that could take a licking and keep on ticking. I'm not sure if you guys are as old as I am. However, that was their slogan. That was actually Timex's slogan back when I was growing up. And it kind of meant something. I guess that resonated with my father, and he always wore a Timex. Now, through my youth, I remember him wearing one or two Timex. That's it. It wasn't like he went through many different versions. So I think it was the Easy Reader. I think that's the one that I have left. My father passed away about 15 years ago, and he left me a few watches. My father was into watches and he was into cars. Basically the two things that I'm really into as well. And of course, my family. He was very into his family as well, thank God. But I've always had this connection to Timex, and that Timex connection is definitely due to my father. And that's why I love to feature Timex here on my channel. Like this watch right here, we're gonna take a look at this one. I also have on my Huckberry. This is the limited edition Huckberry that they just recently came out with. I love these watches. I recently went to a event here in New York City for Timex, and it was one of the best events that I have been to in a very long time. So let's flip the camera. Let's take a look at this watch. Let's talk about Timex in general. I'm going to show you the watch that's on my wrist. Also, I have it on a really awesome strap. I want to show you guys that. It looks amazing. And that's really it. Let's talk about Timex. So definitely a longer intro than I normally do. However, I thought it was somewhat important that you guys know why I like Timex so much and why I feature them here on my channel pretty often. And when they get it right, they get it right. And I really think that they got this watch right. This is a reissue of a watch that came out in 1972. It is a world timer. It was not made in the US market. However, they did make this case shape with a rotating bezel that was available here in the United States because I have owned vintage Timex with this case setup and this bezel setup. This gets a very domed, boxed acrylic crystal. When you turn it on its side, obviously you can see that. Acrylic crystals will scratch, however you could definitely buff them out with a little bit of polywatch. I actually use a Cape Cod cloth on occasion when you have very light scratches. That's actually something to use that works very, very well. This gets a bi-directional friction fitted bezel. So the bezel on here is bi-directional, it's friction fitted. It is a world time bezel. So all you have to do is line up your local city with the hour hand, and that's how you tell the time in other cities. Now, it's not on the fly. So when you look at the watch, obviously you have to set the world timer to tell the time in other parts of the world, which is not a huge deal. It's just a really nice little addition. There are a lot of watches that function like this in the past, and there are a lot of watches that are coming out now with this same sort of functionality, basically just a world time bezel. This is a quartz watch. It says it very proudly there at the 6 o'clock or right above the 6 o'clock index, and it just says Timex right below the 12 o'clock index. You have a very cool dial on here. There's a black minute track that is sort of a negative of the hour track, or maybe vice versa. That hour track is in white, and then you have black indices. So it's black with white indices on the minute track. In the center of the dial is just black. Really nice dial, very 70s inspired. Obviously, because this is a reissue of a 70s watch. This watch is almost square. This is around a 39mm watch. However, if you measure it right at the case, it's around 38.5mm. And then if you measure it at the lugs, and you have very, very short lugs on this watch, measuring it directly on the lugs, you get around 41mm, just under 41mm. You have a very small crown on this watch. The crown is pretty small, but again, in keeping with that original vintage form, 4.6mm, and then the thickness on here, 12.4mm. So that's including that very domed boxed acrylic crystal. This also gets the traditional quartz hatch in the back. You could open this up with a nickel or any coin, really. It's just a little hatch here that you can change the battery very easily at home if you wanted to do that. This also gets a really nice strap. Actually, very, very pleasantly surprised by this strap. It's made by Red Wing, Minnesota. So they are an American brand and they make shoes and bags and things like that. They have a store that's actually not that far away from where I live. I've actually been to the store. They have really nice shoes. Now, one other element I really like about this watch is the date window. They put a trapezoidal date window on here. I haven't seen that from many brands, and I really love the way that that looks. Usually, I'm not a huge fan of the date window, but they put a really nice script for the date, and then the date window, the shape is really cool. Very Art Deco looking, very 70s. There's only one other watch that I own that has that, and it was my father's watch as well. So this is not my father's watch, obviously, but we're talking about my father earlier. My father did buy a Zenith right before he died, and we bought it together. It was on my advice. We talked about it a lot, and we went and bought a Zenith Elite. That actually had a trapezoidal date window. It's the only other watch that I own with this, and this is now my second watch with that feature. I really like it. I think it looks great. You have brushing on the top of the case and lugs. On the side, you have polishing. The crown is unsigned. It is polished. However, it's very in keeping with what the original would have offered. Today on my wrist, I have another Timex. This is the Huckberry limited edition that just recently came out. It was just a few months ago. It immediately sold out with very good reason. Look how cool this watch is. And I have this on an aftermarket strap from a brand called Atelier Honoré. I believe that's how it's pronounced, but I will put a link down in the description below. But you can see on my wrist, they make customized buckles, and you can see this is my old logo. They actually put it on a buckle for me, and it looks awesome. This strap is a beautiful color. It's pink on the inside and blue on the outside. So this is something that I've always said, when Timex get it right, they really get it right, and this is a watch that they got right. The first version of this was a white dial. It sold out in minutes, and the black dial, pretty much the same thing. Probably less popular than the white dial. Those white dials are selling for like $1,000 on eBay and places like that. Pretty insane. Well, there it is on my 7.5 inch wrist. This could be worn by someone with a much smaller wrist than me. However, at the same time, I think it looks at home on my large wrist, and I think it would look at home on someone with an even larger wrist. Because this is a square watch, or almost a square watch, it really does wear well on any sized wrist. And that's because you have those very, very short lugs. It's a very 70s look, however, it really is a very functional fit. This also gets lume, so I will show you a lume shot right now. Well, there you go. Lume definitely fades pretty quickly and is not very strong. However, this is a $179 watch. So when you consider that it's $179, you're getting a pretty cool world timer that has vintage inspiration. That's a reissue of a watch that was out in the 1970s. It was kind of a rare watch as well. It's pretty cool. The only thing is I wish that it lasted a little bit longer, and of course that second hand was lumed. If that was lumed, it would be great so you could see that the watch is working in the dark, but I always complain about that. Other than that, I think it's a really great package for $179. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. Tell me about Timex. Tell me about what you think of Timex. I told you guys why I love Timex. There's a lot of sentimental reasons behind it. When Timex get it right, they really get it right. For $179, I think you're getting a lot of watch, and it's a cool watch too. So tell me what you think down in the comments. I want to hear from you guys. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. It is super helpful for the channel, and I very much appreciate it. Anyway, guys, thank you for logging on. I'll catch you guys in the next video.